Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are so excited to have every one of you. Yeah, it's working. It's good. Thank you so much for joining us on what is promising to be such a spectacular edition of DAF Discussions. Today is generously, partially sponsored by our dear friend Harav Klugman Shlita. Donated some chashav escher over here, Glen Fiddish, Age of the Scout. I'm not sure what this is, but it's worth $200. They tell me. And some Rise and Summitashin, and our dear friend RoboVacuums.com, who also sponsored us. Bagels, Locks for the Lunch and Learn program. Today we decided to change the format of drop. We're holding it in the afternoon with our source material for everyone to see. Last sponsorship, I heard he was very successful in selling vacuums, so we appreciate him, and that's why he came back. As you see, all our sponsors like returning. So we thank him for his continued patronage. So today, like we said, we're doing a drop different. We gave us some sources, some sheets, so everyone should be able to hold cup. It's also, we're going to focus a little less on the chronim. It's be more rishonim and just getting the facts. It's very complicated. Hilchos Chol Hamoed we're talking about. The concept is mכשירי אוכל נפש on Chol Hamoed. Here's the shaila. Let's say a guy's hungry on Chol Hamoed, and he doesn't have any food in his house. Could he go drive to a store to get some food? Or drive? The answer is yes. Let's say your car breaks down on Chol Hamoed and you're starving. Are you allowed to fix your car to go and drive your car and then get some food? So this would be, we would name this mכשירי אוכל נפש. Basically, you're fixing the car, has nothing to do with אוכל נפש, but it's helping you get the food. So mכשירי אוכל נפש. What's the mכשירי אוכל נפש on Chol Hamoed and אוכל נפש itself? So we're going to start with the Gemara in Daf Yud Aleph. That should be the first page on the source, on the sheets, on the Gemara famous list. On the left side, you see that? It has a Ramban and the last page, but it should be the last page, Rabbi, you know? Okay, so Gemara on the left, the Gemara says, top Yud Aleph and Aleph. The Gemara says, two Gemara, very important Gemara. This is going to be focusing on the entire share. The Gemara first says towards the top, Sholach Rav Shara L'chia, the third line from the top, Rav Shara L'chia Bar Ashi, my time my sehedit. You let him make oyara, which is a certain type of net. Aval isli aser, isli, which is a different type of net. My time my seuman. So the word b'chalak, I'm making a net between my sehedit and my seuman. Now it's a shayla. Rashi learns it depends if it's a fishing net or a net for catch a bird, which is very schwer. Exactly why should one be my seuman, my sehedit? You can't catch it on the sea. The Rosh just says they're both talking about the same type of net, the same animal. It just depends how you make it. One's a my sehedit, one's a my seuman. This Gemara seems pretty simple. That Ma'aseh, we know on Chol Hamoed, Ma'aseh Hedyot is mutter, Ma'aseh Uman is us. Now, Ma'aseh Hedyot is only mutter. L'tzarech Hamoed, it's something you need. Well, this is indeed L'tzarech Hamoed. You need to go fishing. Let's say you want to fish, but Afilohachi Ma'aseh Uman is us. It would seem pretty simple. Now, the problem is this seems to be a theory. The next line. The Gemara says, Rav Yehuda Shor la'ami tanira l'migdal taniri, to build ovens. You're allowed to build an oven. As I understand, it's capacity in the Shulchan Aruch Taka. You're allowed to build an oven on Chol Hamoed. Now, b'pashtus, I'm saying pashtus, it's not clear. Building an oven should be a ma'aseh uman. I mean, that's what it would seem. And we see the Ramban names like that for Dover Pasha. So, what's pshat? You're allowed to build an oven, but you're not allowed to build a fishing net. That's a kasher. So, before we answer the stira, let's first handle the Gemara itself of building an oven. Why you're allowed to build an oven, and we'll see if that reason should apply to it. Now, the side of this is the Ramban, and it's a psichot Hilchos Chol Hamoed. You'll see any poskim that discuss Hilchos Chol Hamoed. This Ramban, he's the Morah the Shmaitz on Hilchos Chol Hamoed. It's like three pages before Moed Cut, and he goes through all the klons. So I made a copy. It's on the right side on the same page. So he starts off in the middle of the first paragraph. He says that you're allowed to do any malachas eichel nefesh Chol Hamoed. The Gemara is not clear. Eichel nefesh is mutter Chol Hamoed. I mean, it says you're allowed to say that, but it could have been. A lot of the kites are everything Gemara says allowed to do. You could have learned the Gemara talking about dafka ma'aseh hedyot. He says you're allowed to do it even a ma'aseh uman is for l'tzarech eichel nefesh. So we have a new category in Chol Hamoed. All the places you bring this down as if it's a fact. Like I said, it's not mefurish the Gemara. Where all the places can say you're allowed to do meleches eichel nefesh even a ma'aseh uman. Now look at the second paragraph. Look at the Ramban. Mכשיrין, even mכשיri eichel nefesh. Kol shen kroivin lo eichel nefesh atzmai also oisim kil eichel nefesh. U'muter afilu b'meleches uman v'zu she'iter rava la'ami taniro l'migdal tanuri. That's why the Gemara we just said you're allowed to build an oven. So there, why allowed to build an oven? That's called mכשירי oichel nefesh. As I state in Ramban, Ramban goes back to this. It's very important to see this. Ramban, we're going to get back to this very soon. The next paragraph. Actually, let's do it right now. Once we're at it, the beginning of the next paragraph is if you want to dig a pit to drink water, If you don't have anything to drink, nearly the mutter. He says it's also mutter because that's also mכשירי אוכל נפש. Now, even the mכשירי אוכל nefesh and אוכל nefesh is mutter. The Ramban speaks that it's only if you need it, if you need it to drink. It's not across the board. Okay, so now that's very good. That explains why you're allowed to build an oven. But l'chayra, how come you're not allowed to build a net for the same lumdis? It should be mכשירי אוכל nefesh. Maybe what?
You could eat the fish. Now you do it for the birds.
What do you mean? He's saying, let's assume you're on rational. Let's just assume that one's a ma'aseh and one's a ma'aseh hedid. Why can't I? Oh, you mean you're talking about you have a chetimtzah to make a ma'aseh hedid? Okay, so Rabbi Yo's learning the verdicts because you have a yichaylis to make a different type of net. Okay, that's a possibility. Okay, so now look at the next page. Magen Avram, he asked this question. Page Rishon, it's in Siman Tov Kuf Mem Aleph. The Machaber Paskins. Mutter lasis mitzudis dogim me'aravo. Shehu ma'aseh hedid. Avaloi ha'arugim is the next. Page Rishon. I don't know. It's before. It's either right before. It's in Siman Tov Kuf Mem Aleph. Sif Aleph. You guys have? Yeah. Okay. It's page before. I'm not sure. Tov Kuf Mem Aleph. There's two of them. Page Reish Lamed Ches and then the Friedman. Yeah. Reish Lamed Ches. It says on top. Yeah. Page Reish Lamed Ches. Okay. So the Mechaber Paskins, you're allowed to. Look at Sif Aleph. Mutter lasis mitzudis dogim. The Mechaber Paskins like this morning. You're not allowed to build a ma'aseh uman. Frakt the Magen Avram Akasha. Sif look the Magen Rasif Gan Aleph. Dafka l'tzarich hamoed. Fine. You're allowed to do the ma'aseh. V'tzarich ian. The ha'afilu ma'aseh uman shari kivan hu mכשירי אוכל nefesh. Frakt the Magen Avram. The chayra ma'aseh uman was mכשירי k'may tanner, just like a tanner. The Magen Avram Mamash asked this question. As if you find you're allowed to build a tanner because it's mכשירי אוכל nefesh. Frakt the Magen Avram. Why are you not allowed to build a fishing net? After the Magen Avram, an interesting tarot. It's very cryptic words. We're going to ask the Chabur to help me explain what he's saying. V'yesh loymar. I don't know what this means. D'loi mikra mכשירין, elo dover hamכשירי la'achila k'goin taner v'sakin. Something which is mכשירי la'achila. Aval rishto is loi mikra mכשיrין. Says a net is not mכשיrין. A taner v'sakin is a mכשיrין. Now, I have a few different possibilities of how to understand the Magen Avram. Is there anyone that's volunteering to give me their explanation over here? What they think the Magen Avram Pashut Pshat, the difference between it seems at first glance to be the exact same thing. You build a net, you catch a fish, you eat the fish. You build an oven, you bake the bread, you eat the bread. Both seems to be regular standard case of mכשירי אוכל nefesh. Yet we find one is mutter, one is aser. In the same Gemara, one line apart. And the first person to even ask the question is the Magen Avram, from what I'm aware of, which is also interesting. Another Rishonim, it's like it's just an open stira. What's the Magen Avram said chilik that building a net is not called mכשיrין. Dafka dover hamכשיri la'achilu k'gan taner v'zak v'shlo mikra mכשיrין. And this teretz Magen Avram is gepaskint in the Mishmur says he brings this down also. Any volunteer? If not, she could give you my options.
You have a similar concept by Tfilas Kingdom. So there's like a knife which you actually come into real contact with the food. So a taner and a sack, those are coming into real contact with the food right before it's completely finished eating.
That was actually one of my possibilities. Okay, so Rav Klugman is saying this rather than net is touching a fish. You're saying a fish is not food.
It's food. No, it's food. But there's still more things you have to do to get it right.
There's still more steps.
Yeah,
when you count the fish, so you're saying catching a fish itself, would that be, how would you, according, so basically Rabbi Klugman, let's just repeat.
Unless you eat sushi, then it's...
Right, since you can't eat raw fish, something like this. Basically, you call, this is what I'm going to name the mכשיrין mahal. In other words, it's not mכשיrין אוכל nefesh, mכשיrין אוכל nefesh. Because, I'm not sure if that's accurate, but basically, he's saying that when the oven, you're putting the food in the oven, directly in the oven. So you're building an oven, that's mכשיrין אוכל nefesh. Mashaykin and net, it's not catching the food, it's catching the fish, but the fish is not finished until later. Now, how would you, catching fish itself, how would you term that? Would you call it אוכל nefesh or mכשיrין אוכל nefesh? Catching fish, going fishing, you're picking up a fish which is not food. According to this, according to the way I would say, according to that, should be mכשיrī אוכל nefesh. Okay, fine. So let's start with that test. Now the problem with this mahalach is the machaber. We have it over here. It should be in spreadsheet Siman Tov Kuf Mem Sif Zayin. Tamer B'Kirayim. I think I got the right spot. I got the wrong. Actually, I think I printed the wrong thing. I think it'll be the next step actually. Tov Kuf Mem Sif Chet. On the machaber I don't have it in front of me. I think it's the next step. The paskins you're allowed to machaber paskins you're allowed to build a rechaim on a Chol Hamoed. Now, Harav Klugman. That teretz, I have a kasha. I'm slugging up your teretz. You're allowed to build a rechaim. Oh, actually, yeah. Let's show the rush. Shiloh's rechaim, though, doesn't. It's not edible until later. You grind up the flour and then you bake it. Why is it any different? So now so that's a kasha. Now once we brought in this,
it doesn't say.
So yeah, it's the next step. It's the next step. The Ramban. Right. Okay. So the shaila is. So what about rechaim? According to that lumdus, rechaim should also be also. Yet we find you're allowed to make a rechaim. Now talking about rechaim, it's a daf earlier. I didn't print the more, but let's look at the rush. I think it should be the last or the first. This is I printed out a rush in Siman Yud Ches. He goes through. We'll step right into this sugya of rechaim. I'm going with a lot of order. Hopefully, I'll get everything covered. Now the rush is looking at Masnisan. He's going to go rechaim. The Gemara says, what does rechaim mean? You have the rush, Siman Yud Ches. It starts at the top of the page. Yud Ches. It should be the last or the first of the spreadsheet. Now the rush says, what is rechaim? My machapsim. What are you allowed to do? Amar Rabbi Menaker rechaim. Once she's Menaker, Rabbi Chilim Rabas Einot. So Shiloh, what exactly? How you tie? Just look the rush. Custom Rabbi Zal. Rabbi Yehuda Merdavke Menaker rechaim. The Ma'aser Hediyatu. Avabas Einu Loi. The Ma'aser Umanu. Rabbi Chilim Rabas Einu Koshkim Menaker rechaim. Look Rabbi Yehuda. So he says. So here the rush says that you're not allowed to do passes like Rabbi Yehuda. It's either ridges or a hole. So Shiloh, is it a Ma'aser Uman or a Ma'aser Hediyat? That's what they're arguing. The Machlekes are you? This is good for the Machlekes. There's the Merdik Rush, who says the good for the Machlekes Amiram here is are you allowed to do a Ma'aser Uman for a Rechaim? Now, like I mentioned before, the Ramban he says b'davar pashut that mכשירי אוכל nefesh is daiche. All the Rishonim mכשירי kol it's a pella and no one brings down this rush. The rush says it's Machlekes in the Gemara, and he says Allah Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says dav kemenaker. That according to the rush, he says before the rush that you're not allowed to do mכשירי אוכל nefesh. You see how it's before? He says Rav Yehuda's shita is daf kemenaker rechai the ma'asel had to do avavas and the ma'asel umanu. The rush says you're not. Rav Yehuda's shita is you're not allowed to be menaker rechaya. You're not allowed to do bas ena. You're not allowed to do a ma'asel uman on a rechaim. So the rush Allah Rav Yehuda. So what's right? Avavas ena the ma'asel uman. Rav Yehuda passes you're not allowed to do a ma'asel uman on a rechaim. That's the psak, and the rush passes like that. Now the Shulchan Aruch doesn't pass like that. Why? Because it's a ma'aser uman. You're not allowed to do ma'aser uman. Now, what's trying not allowed to do a ma'aser uman? I start chayil nefesh. So it would seem what are they arguing? If you're allowed to do a ma'aser uman on a rechayim, what are they arguing? It seems to be the same exact this machlekes that do you say mכשירי אוכל nefesh you're allowed to do on Chol Hamoed even a ma'aser uman? The Ramban says for lower pashut you're allowed to. As I read the Gemara of Tanur, you're allowed to build an oven. So that's mכשירי אוכל nefesh. Well, the Rosh seems to say that's a machlekes in the Gemara that if you're allowed to build a rechayim is a ma'aser uman. Yes, there are the different pshatim in the Shara, and that could be. The way the Rush brings down, like I brought on the Rush's pshat in the Gemara is that they're arguing if you're allowed to do a ma'aser uman on a rechaim. What's the shaila? Why should he be allowed? Why should he not be allowed? What's the ma'aser uman? So they're arguing. Isn't it simple? Why? Yeah, that's the Ramban the first. Look at the Ramban. It says, "Klor mכשירי nefesh is even feel melech uman." The Ramban recorded. Yeah, that's against building an oven. The Rush says machlekes in the Gemara. Yeah. So it's a pella. No one even because the Rush passes the Charnag the Ramban. If you look at all the Paiskim, they all say mכשירי nefesh is like. I made a copy of the Shmini Shabbos Kol Chazah. We're going to bring it later. It's no way you don't have to. It's not really. I really made it for the next part. He says, just give me an example. All the Paiskim be down. Mכשירי nefesh is a fact that's brought down everywhere. Mכשירי nefesh is allowed to do on Chol Hamoed. This is brought down as if it's Ma'amah Shulchan Lish Misinai. Any sefer Piskin Shu was Mishnah Berurah. Every Paiskim Magen Avraham Shulchan. Everyone said mכשירי nefesh is daicha. No one quotes that Shita Sarosh is the mכשירי nefesh is not daicha. It's tam. It's over plea. But upon him, that's the Rush passes. Like I'm saying, but Shulchan Aruch passes that you are allowed to build. And I think I'm not like you are allowed to build a rechaim the Shnimis or Rambam. That you're allowed to do it. So that will be a kasha on our dear friend Rabbi Klugman's shita that it's a word in Ma'aser and it's the food's not ready because then you should be able to build a rechaim. So the other pshat, which I think is I actually thought that was a little more simple. That's what Shmini Shabbos the Chassan learns, but other people before. You see, I quoted it. I wrote a copy of it. You can look at it inside. It's not. Basically, he says the idea is that you have to be doing something to the food as opposed to just locating the food. So he says like this: the Parak Samach Sif Yud Tes. He's quoting the Magen Avraham more or less. V'v'dilu Chazal or Machalek b'did mכשירי nefesh. Quotes Chazal as if it's a fact. Like I said, this is a Magen Avraham. It's like very interesting. I saw this. I'm like, I have a little less. I don't trust any farm anymore. The way he puts it down, as if it's like a Gemara. V'dilu Chazal b'did mכשירי nefesh bein melacha b'dover shemamish mכשירי sameichel kegoin tikun kiri hagaz. V'dilu she'omnam tzrichim le'lechav lu atzma einay b'la hachshir sameichel. Going sulam hatonting like fixing a ladder. If you're not fixing the food, you're just helping it. That's the way he understands the Magen Avraham. No, so he says fishing, you're not doing anything to the fish. You're just you're bringing the fish. So that's what he says. He says like the style we started off with. So that's right in the Magen Avraham, like the Magen Avraham, that building a fishing that you're not allowed to because that's not helping the food at all. You're not helping the fish. You're not. So go back to Magen Avram's lashon. He says, which makes it edible. You're doing something to it. By catching a fish, you're not making the fish edible. You're bringing the fish to you. You don't say that you're not going to. In such a case, mכשירין is not going to be there. That would answer our question. What? Fixing an oven. Oh, so oven bakes the food, and now this would answer our case. Rechaim also helps the food. You're grinding the wheat, so that would be a good solution for Shulchan Aruch. The problem with that is, it's going to stem with the Poskim. Are we clear over here? This is a good shot. Fine. The problem with this is, it's not going to stem with Ramban himself. It's going to stem with the Shulchan Aruch, but not the Ramban. The Ramban says, no, the Ramban we saw before actually, not Muhammad's. Back to the Ramban we mentioned, it's by Chafir's Beiris. Back to the original Ramban, the next paragraph. The first page, yeah. Yeah. So that's the third paragraph. Nearly the mutter. So you're allowed to dig a boir. So it's like there, if you need to drink it, you're allowed. The Magen Mishnah brings down Arichas. He says it's Machlekes Rishonim about this. I go on the Ramban sheet is you're allowed to dig a bar. Now I just want to show you how the Magen Avram doesn't pass. It's not like the Ramban. The Magen Avram would be. It's going to be in Siman Tov Kuf Mem Daled. We have it over here in the spreadsheet over here. Tov Mem Daled. Shulchan Aruch Paskins. Boris Minus Ram Shnov Me'Alfer Avon Zak Mutter Sakram. You're allowed to fix it, and he says the end of Shtip Beis. See Tov Kuf Mem Daled Shtip Beis. The Shulchan Aruch. Aval Boris Yichon Amar Shel Yachid Oster Lach Boris Mechadosh Vafilu Tzarach Lamat. Even if you need it now, so the Magen Avram Vafilu Eloi Ma Yishta Oster. The Magen Avram Paskins, you're not allowed to dig boiris. So the shaila is what shaila. So the Magen Avram actually he's quoting a Magen Mishnah. Magen Mishnah says he's chaylik on the Ramban. So the Magen Avram is talking. Before we go back to the Ramban, let's just finish the Magen Avram. What's pshat? I l'chayr mכשירי אוכל nefesh is doiche yamtiv. So okay, so it's very good. Loit the Magen Avram l'shitase will be very good. You could learn, as so as pshat moedim zmanim, that when you dig a bar, you're not doing anything to the water. You're just bringing the water. You're just locating the water. So. What he said? You're not in the water itself. So that's like I said, that is a good mahalach in the Magen Avram Shulchan Aruch. But like I said, the Ramban he disagrees. The Ramban we said he holds not like the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram is the Magen Mishnah. Magen Mishnah says meforish. He's going to like our Ramban. Like go back to Ramban. Nearly the mutter. The Ramban says it's taka mutter to drink. So the Ramban's a pliya. What is the pshat? If you see the Ramban doesn't hold of any of these mahalchim. The Ramban doesn't hold of. The Ramban's not going. He can't hold of this teretz because, like we said, of the Magen Avram, that like the Shri Shabbos calls his explanation. So then, how come? Because we slugged it up from the case of Chayir's Beiris. So why are you not allowed to build a fishing net? So I'm just thinking, in the Magen Avram, in the Ramban himself, maybe you could say the teretz Rabbi Klugman wanted to say. As we slugged up the teretz from the Shulchan Aruch, that Shulchan Aruch Paskins, you're allowed to build. Rabbi Klugman's original teretz was that building a net, the fish is not ready. It's not food. It's a step later. So we have shlagma from Rechaim. That Shulchan Aruch, you're allowed to build a Rechaim. Now, I'm not sure what maybe the Ramban Taka would hold. You're not allowed to build a Rechaim. Like we said, some Choyvish in the Gemara. I don't even know how we learned that Gemara. But Ken Zayin in the Ramban, you could say your Mahal. In the Magen Avram, you can't say your Mahal. In Shulchan Aruch, you could say the second Mahal. But in the Ramban, actually, you could say your Mahal. Now the problem with saying that Mahal from the Ramban himself would be we have Ramban Mulchamis over here. I'm not sure if it's a kasher, but basically, the Mishnah says in Beitza that you're not allowed to do tzod on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to trap a fish on Yom Tov. We know here, it's next to Sefer HaMichtam on the page. So on the bottom is Muhammad. You see the rain on this one, on the bottom is Muhammad Hashem? You see? So basically, the halacha is you're allowed to do stuff for Eichel Nefesh. Are you allowed to trap? Tzod, if you're hungry on Yom Tov, you're allowed to go trap. So I would think Eichel Nefesh you're allowed. The Mishnah says you're not allowed to. As a matter of fact, who could guess what the name of the parak of that parak is? Ein Tzod is very good. So the shaila is why you're not allowed to trap on Yom Tov. So Rashi asks the kasha. Rashi says, no, so that's Chol Hamoed. Like you said, Yom Tov itself, not Chol Hamoed. Yeah, so even though they both go with Eichel Nefesh, but they're obviously not the same thing. So Rashi says that the reason why you can't trap on Yom Tov is because trapping was extra lashes Erev Yom Tov. You could have done the regular, let's say Bishal, if you bake it on Erev Yom Tov, it gets spoiled. But any malacha which you could have done on Erev Yom Tov and the food would make just as good, so the trapping, you trap a fish, it stays just as good on Yom Tov. That's Rashi says, you're not allowed to do it. Now the Ramban, the Rashi Zal. The Mishnah said, "Ushat Seder Asur b'nei she'efshel la'asoyis me'erev Yom Tov." Ein dvar of the Chayim. She'oichel nefesh atzmai dvar Torah Mutter la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov. After Shav la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov. Lechalkinu elo b'mכשיrin. You can't say that. The only time you find the chil between after la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov and after la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov is by mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. So that say there's the Eichel Nefesh itself. So how could you tell me that there's a chil between after la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov or not? If say there's Eichel Nefesh, as Rashi's kasha, Rashi says, why doesn't say the Eichel Nefesh? If it's Eichel Nefesh, so then there shouldn't make a difference that it's after la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov, because Gemara never differentiates. You don't find such a thing in Shas, Dr. Ramban, that Eichel Nefesh, which is after la'aseisim Erev Yom Tov, you're not allowed to do. Let's say a guy, that's the Ramban says. Yeah, the Ramban says the only chil you find after mכשיri in the fear of Yehuda, mכשיri Eichel Nefesh is a chil between after la'aseisim. But Eichel Nefesh itself, you don't find. It's a big stretch to put it into Eichel Nefesh. So I just wanted to bring up this Taisus and Gimel and Alpha Bay is the exact same thing. I just wanted to prove that Ramban calls Meleches say the Eichel Nefesh mamish. If so, building a trap should have been mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. If you wanted to answer that building a trap is mכשיrin, the way other places people want to learn the Magen Avram and the Ramban, and that would answer most of the Rambans. The problem is, stop building a trap shouldn't be mכשיrin. If he calls say the Eichel Nefesh itself, then the Chayyim building should be mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. So I don't really have shot in the Ramban. The only shot is I'm saying I'm coming. The Magen Avram is the kasha, like we said, it's very shver. The Magen Avram doesn't shim in the Ramban because the Ramban paskins you're allowed to dig a bar. The only thing I'm thinking is like we said, the Rosh has Mechokes Amiroyim in this shilos. Maybe the Ramban himself paskins like the shita you're allowed to learn Yanni Gemara like the other shita, big daichik obviously. Now I just want to mention I have a sefer Amichtam. In other words, according to the Rosh, that it says you're not allowed. Sefer is one of the Rishonim, but basically according to the Rosh that says I don't know his name. I'm not sure. So according to the Rosh, that says, like we said before, the Rosh paskins you're not allowed to do mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. Like I said, this is the biggest chiddush of the shir, by the way. You'll take any sefer in Hilchos Chol Hamoed, they're all going to quote that you're allowed to mכשיri Eichel Nefesh is doich Chol Hamoed. You're allowed to do it. Even my Uma. Shittas Ram, it comes from the Ramban. I think it's a shtickle pliya that no one mentions the Shittas Rosh that holds you're not allowed to do mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. But now in the Rosh the shita, how is he going to understand the Gemara that says you're allowed to build an oven, which is the makar, that's the makar of the Ramban. The Ramban says that's why you're allowed to build an oven. So the Sefer HaMechtav, he learns building an oven. It seems that I saw other Rishonim as well. He's not my first. There are Rishonim that mentioned that it's not really building an oven. It's more of a Ma'aseh Hadid. You can learn any Gemara. It's talking about a Ma'aseh Hadid. The Gemara building an oven, it doesn't say it's a Ma'aseh Uman. It could have been talking about Ma'aseh Hadid. I mean, Mismar is a Ma'aseh Uman. Building an oven sounds like a Ma'aseh Uman. But those days, apparently, could have been different types of ovens. So, can we with temporary oven? In other words, it's not muchach in the Gemara, so it's not a merited gekash. So just to summarize, the Ramban holds mכשיri Eichel Nefesh is doich Yom Tov. So that would be shver the Ramban himself from the case of building a net, and Magen Avram's teretz is a shtickle shver because of the Ramban. The Ramban says you're allowed to build a. The Ramban says you're allowed to dig water. Now, back to original Shah, you're allowed to fix a car, so you go back to the Shmir Shabbos L'chosa, he quotes this Ramban. The way he understands the Magen Avram, which we said is a shvar pshat in the Ramban, but it's a good pshat in the Magen Avram, because the Magen Avram himself says you're not allowed to dig for the water, but he says Shmir Shabbos, like we said, says according to this, you're not allowed to fix a car to go. You're not allowed to fix a car, even though it's mכשיri Eichel Nefesh. But the way he's passing like the Magen Avram, you're not real that since it's not fixing the food, it's just bringing you the food. That's like fixing a fishing net. We're just getting it. So that's the way. So halacha, that's the way he does. That's the way he understands the Magen Avram. Fine. Shkaya, thank you all for this. But my said you're allowed to do. Yeah, my said you're allowed. On your car. The Shilish Ministers. Rabbi Yosef Dave Ben Rabbi Nitzl Zev Halevi. It's your side today. So the one finish was on here. He's on there. What are you going to say? I'm ready by Ad Leoda. Fine, so it should be a schus and all the shtiyas from the Haley Blood Fiddich. It should be Yala, Milo. What is it? Brachas. Oh, the brachas. I've had the brachas on yeah. Thank you all for listening. It's a pleasure having you.